So I was initially told that I was a finalist in the leadership category of the Volunteering Victoria Awards, which this year is also combining with the Victorian Government Volunteering Awards. So it was a joint effort by Volunteering Victoria and the Victorian Government. So I went to Government House on Friday, 25th of March, as a finalist, and they were going to announce the winners on the day. And to my very great surprise, I was the winner in the leadership category award. So I went up to receive my award for that. And then there was an overall winner across all the different categories of awards. So there were about 3 or 4 COVID-19 related category awards. There were another 3 or 4 other categories in relation to building partnerships or building training partnerships or training pathways. Anyway, all up there were several categories of awards for which there was a finalist and a winner for each category. And then there was a general overall winner, which the Premier decides. And lo and behold, I got selected to be the overall winner as well. Well, that's a long journey. So how long do you have? But I migrated in 1970 as an 8-year-old with my parents and siblings. So anyway, we came in 1970 and settled in Bendigo, which is a township north of Melbourne, a country town. And then I had my schooling there and then went to university, both in Geelong, and then came to Melbourne in 1982 to start work. But during my younger years, I did face racism. I did feel excluded from mainstream society, and that memory has lingered and stays with me. I think it will stay forever when you have those experiences. And that's when I felt that when the Indian population was growing very rapidly in Melbourne and Victoria, in fact, I think it tripled between 2011 and 2016. It was a massive increase. I thought it's high time we do something and set up an Indian welfare agency. And I was working in the community services sector for quite a while when I realized there was a gap. Through my own work experiences where I was seeing other ethnic groups setting up their agencies and doing wonderful work for their communities. And I felt that, well, we're one of the largest migrant groups and we don't have a dedicated welfare agency. So that's when the Victorian Multicultural Commission also approached me and said, how about it? How about starting something? And that's how it started. I think what got our attention was there were a spate of attacks on Indian international students in Melbourne. We were hearing cases of family violence. And through my own experiences, growing up here, that recognizing that there are intergenerational challenges, between the different generations, that was what spurred us, that the issues of the time. I work in the community services field.
Okay.
So I was, at that time, I think I was working in local government, but prior to that I was working in a lot of not-for-profit organizations. And so the Multicultural Commission knew me, and they knew Geeta because she works a lot in the faith community. So we were sort of people they could approach, and they thought, let's see, they felt, well, let's have a conversation. And Geeta and I were also actually thinking that something needed to be done. So we had this conversation with the leaders from the commission. And then what I did was I thought we needed to have more conversation with leaders within our own community. So between Geeta and I, and by then I also approached a few other people to say, what do you think, should we form a group? And they said, a couple of them that I approached said, yes, we'd be interested. So between us, we then went and talked to other members in the community to understand the issues. The biggest challenge was the feedback that we got from most of the people we spoke to in the Indian community was, you're not going to be able to pull this off because we are a diverse community. We have too many languages, too many cultural differences within our own community, and it'll be hard to unite a team and get this working. So in a way it was good, because then when we did finally constitute as a legal body, IndianCare, in November 2013, we went with it with our eyes wide open, thinking this may not work. So we went in there quite humbly, which is good, I think, rather than going with very fanciful ideas, thinking that we can do amazing things. We went in there very slowly, very steadily. Mostly I approached them. I didn't know all of them, but through word of mouth, people said, approach such and such person, because, they'll be able to help you. I was very careful who I picked. I would say that is really the secret of success, is that you be very careful and mindful as to who you select on your committee, because it was important for me that people had the right values. More than skill sets, it was for me more important that they had the values of service and to do things without expecting anything in return, and just have that community mindedness. So they were very carefully chosen, the people, and I really think that is the most crucial starting point, is getting the right team. So the first 2 years we had no money, so we just did some little things, little consultations here and there, that sort of thing. But then finally we got a small amount of money. The Alcohol and Drug Foundation approached us, and they said, we want to spread the message of prevention of alcohol harm. So really just about safe drinking practices. So they gave us a little bit of money, and the Victorian Multicultural Commission gave us a little bit of money for really just capacity building and forming just a few policies and procedures. I mean, family violence is the big issue in our community, unfortunately. So that's something which we tried to, all we could really is just talk about it and raise it as an issue. And even this prevention from alcohol harm, these are tough issues that we didn't want to put out in the community, saying our community has all these horrible issues, but we know that there are those issues. So it's really a game of playing it in a way where you want to say there's a lot of strength in our community, but there's also some issues that need to be handled, and we shouldn't shy away from them. So with the Alcohol and Drug Foundation project, that was a 2-year project, and in fact the Alcohol and Drug Foundation, it's 80 years old at that time. It was 80 years old, it's obviously a lot older now, but they hadn't worked with multicultural communities until then, quite interestingly. So even though Australia is really touted as a multicultural community, this was the first project that they called Connecting Diversity, and reached out to a couple of the ethnic communities, one of which was the Indian community, and to talk about prevention of alcohol harm. So they relied very much on us to understand how alcohol is used in our community. We gave them information such as spirits are more probably prevalent than, say, beer and wine. Those sort of understandings we were able to provide. We held a lot of focus group discussions, which we did jointly for the foundation to understand how alcohol is impacting on our community. So I stepped away from the board after 8 years as the founding president. So in September 2021, last year, at our AGM, I announced that I won't be nominating again for the board position, because I think it's really important to bring new energy into the team. And luckily, 6 months prior to me leaving, I was able to mentor another person to step up into the president role. So it was a very smooth transition, which is, I think, very important for an organization like this. We don't want too much disruption. So it was a nice transition for me to move away from the president role. But I still do quite a bit of volunteering work for the organization, especially helping them in their strategic directions, in their fundraising capacities. Yes, you can't just step away from an organization that you founded. Yes. You still want to see that it's strong and keeping itself viable. Yes, I think there's several stories, but I think one which really gives me a lot of good vibes is the service sector, which is the mainstream service sector, whether it's local governments or whether it's other charitable organizations who are servicing the mainstream community. They have been approaching us more than we approaching them. They felt that, we can't reach out to the Indian community. We need you to help us connect to the Indian community. I can't tell you how many times we've been approached to work in partnership with these different non-Indian agencies to help reach out to the Indian community. And that in itself, to me, proves that there was a need for our organization. Because they said sometimes they found our organization by just Googling Indian welfare and seeing what pops up, and then IndianCare pops up. So they were desperately trying to reach out to the big Indian community. That's on that sort of structural level, a little bit of a story there, that how I found that was so heartening and pleasing that, we've been able to do that partnership activity. At a micro individual level, I believe one of the staff members was telling me that there's a woman who calls every 2 or 3 weeks just to talk to our family violence worker, just to feel like she's being supported. Not that she needs anything from our organization, but she said, I just like to call and just chat for half an hour, and that's enough. So even that sort of assistance it goes such a long way. I don't think you can deny the strength of that social support type of activity. Mm-hmm. Other anecdotes is we've taken older people out to excursions and just to get them out of their grandparenting duties, because quite often older people are brought into the countries to look after their young people. So while the children are at school, IndianCare was just able to support them and give them a bit of an outing. These sort of little things, apart from the heavier issues we deal with in terms of family violence or, drug and alcohol issues. These sort of really, I wouldn't call them light projects. I think they're still very meaningful, but they give so much strength to our community. Mm-hmm. It's a really good question, and I'm really glad you asked that question. There are a couple of ways. Firstly, they can come forward and put their hand forward to volunteer and help us with whatever we're doing, whether it's in the office or whether it's to help us organize workshops, or whether we set up stalls in the Indian festivals. If people would like to help us, please contact our office. We do have a volunteer form, and there's a little bit of a screening process for volunteers. The other way is to attend any workshops or events that we organize. Give us your support and come and understand what we're trying to do. But the most important way, I would say, is if people could donate to our organization, because we do not have enough funds to do the work that we need to do. And year to year, we're just searching for funds, and it's very difficult to hold on to staff when we can't guarantee them a permanent position. So I think it's really important that if we can get our own community to understand that IndianCare is there to support the community, and to put donations, small or big, it's tax deductible donations. We have DGR status, so if we would welcome any donations. And our website has a donation button in it, so like people can use that to put in their donations or ring our organisations. But we would really like that support. So I stepped away because I started my PhD. So having worked in the field of community development for more than 20 years in Melbourne, I could see a gap in the work that the community development field is doing in terms of sustainable development. I feel that community development can offer a lot in pushing forth the sustainable development goals, which all countries in the world have signed up to. Australia is a signatory to those goals as well, but I think we need to do a lot more in terms of sustainable development in this country, and I think community development and community organisations like IndianCare can offer a lot towards that. My other big vision is, which I don't know if I can pull off, but what I would like to do is do some volunteer work in India itself, especially working with women in India, because it was always an issue that women in India need to be far more empowered. But I think COVID has added such a greater dimension where a lot of women have lost jobs because they were on tenuous jobs. They're struggling with a lot of issues, and I would like somehow to do something in India to support the women and in a volunteer capacity.
So when Jaya started IndianCare several years ago, we started off with nothing. We had absolutely nothing except goodwill, persistence, and a desire to do something good and some change in the lives of our compatriots and their challenges in life. So we collectively got together under Jaya's leadership as a president, and we started the organization from virtually nothing. So we incorporated the organization, we looked for funding, and first funding we got was $3,000. That was a lot of money because we had absolutely nothing to start with except, as I said, a lot of goodwill. So we started with that small amount, and we did spend it on the community, and then we started to get the approaches from the various funding bodies slowly but steadily, and the state government recognized the good work IndianCare has been doing under the stewardship of Jaya, and they approached us for further funding for any programs that they have for geared towards the Indian community. And they started funding us, and they started helping us to help our community. Jaya is one of those people who is very thorough, very organized, and very passionate and committed to doing the right thing. And for her, doing things is not just good enough unless it's done the right way and involving right people and getting the right outcome. So it's not just action, but action with the right intent and right outcome. That's what she's interested in.
So I met Jaya in 2018 and I was attending the AGM of IndianCare. When she was making her president's speech, I was taking notes, thinking it is so needed that our community be supported and to feel belonged here and also be referred to support services that they need. What were the main things that struck me at that time was just the compassionate nature of the way Jaya spoke and her emphasis on capacity building, her emphasis on digital literacy, on health literacy, and her emphasis on the ethos of community development. These are such important topics that we need to address and build the capacity of our people, of the Indian diaspora here and the new migrants who come, so that they are able to navigate the system and actually get the support that they need, which is culturally appropriate and culturally sensitive.
Congratulations to Jaya on receiving the Premier's Volunteer of the Year Dame Elizabeth Murdoch Award and the Volunteering Leadership Award. I can't think of a more deserving person. Jaya's empathy and the ability to give back to the community is immense. She's been a mentor to me in my journey with IndianCare, and I hope I can do justice to my current role as the president. Huge shoes to fill. And once again, congratulations, Jaya.